Peter wasn't just a gamer, he was a king. King of the digital world. His YouTube channel, Peter Plays, had millions of fans. They called themselves the Peter Pals. Every night, they gathered to watch him conquer virtual worlds. He was famous for his quick reflexes and his even quicker jokes. He never backed down from a challenge, not once. His room was a high-tech fortress. Neon lights pulsed on the walls. Multiple screens glowed with vibrant colors. This was his kingdom, and he ruled it from a throne-like gaming chair. His fans loved him because he was fearless. Or at least, he seemed to be. One night, after a long stream, a message appeared on his screen. It was different from the usual fan mail. It was a single black box with glowing white text. There was no sender, no subject line, just a chilling message. "Peter," it began, "you think you are brave. You think you have faced every monster. But you have only played games. We invite you to a real challenge, a game for your very life." The words seemed to jump off the screen. Peter felt a shiver crawl up his spine. This was no ordinary prank. It felt cold, it felt real. The message continued, describing a new technology. VR glasses, virtual augmented reality. Not just a game you see, but a world you feel, the text explained. "On Friday at midnight, we will send you the glasses. Put them on. The world will be watching. Survive our little game and you will be a legend. Fail, and you will be a ghost story." The challenge was clear. It was dangerous. It was also the kind of thing Peter's fans would go crazy for. He thought about it for a moment. His heart pounded in his chest. A game for his life? It had to be a gimmick. A very elaborate one. Peter smiled. He typed a single word in reply. "Accepted." He announced the event on his channel. The Peter Pals went wild. The hype was unbelievable. Millions of people were going to watch. On the chosen Friday, a sleek black package arrived. Inside were the VR glasses. They were smooth, dark, and cold to the touch. They looked like a pair of futuristic sunglasses with no lenses, just a polished black surface. As midnight approached, Peter sat in his chair, the glasses in his hand. His heart was a drum beating a fast, nervous rhythm. The countdown on his stream hit 0. "Let's do this, pals," he said and put the glasses on. The world went black. Then it exploded into view. Peter was no longer in his room. He was standing in front of a giant, terrifying house. The paint was peeling. The windows were like empty eyes staring into the darkness. A twisted dead tree stood in the front yard. Thunder rumbled in the fake sky above. A sign creaked on its rusty chains. "Welcome." He could feel the damp chill in the air. He could smell the decay of wet leaves and old wood. The VR glasses were more than just a screen. They were a doorway. A doorway into this horrible place. Millions of his fans watched, their chat feeds scrolling at lightning speed. He took a shaky breath and pushed the heavy wooden door open. It groaned loudly. The inside was even worse. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like ghostly hair. Dust covered everything. A long, dark hallway stretched before him. At the end of the hall, a small figure sat in a rocking chair. It was a doll with bright red hair and a chilling, painted smile. Chucky. The doll's head slowly turned. "Wanna play?" it asked in a high, squeaky voice. Peter jumped back, his heart pounding. This was not just a picture on a screen. The doll was there. He could almost feel its glassy eyes watching his every move. Peter cautiously moved down the hallway, his every step echoing in the silence. He tried to make a joke for his viewers. "Well, he's not as scary in person," he said, but his voice trembled. He walked past a closed door. Suddenly, it burst open. A figure in a nun's habit lunged out. Its face was pale and monstrous, with piercing yellow eyes. "The nun!" Peter screamed and stumbled backward. This was too real. The fear was too real. He could feel his pulse throbbing in his ears. The game was designed to attack his deepest fears, pulling monsters straight from the movies he watched as a kid. He ran through dusty rooms and down winding corridors. Each corner held a new terror. He saw a girl with long black hair crawl out of a television set. In another room, a rocking chair moved on its own, and he knew Annabelle was watching him. The house was a maze of horror, and he was the mouse. He kept telling himself it was just a game, just pixels and code. But the cold dread that filled him felt real. The sweat on his forehead felt real. The fear was no longer a performance for his audience. It was a cold, hard knot in his stomach. Something began to change. It started as a strange feeling, a pulling sensation. It felt like a cold wind was blowing right through him. He looked down at his hands in the game. They flickered. For a second, they looked transparent, like a ghost's. "Whoa, did you guys see that?" he asked his audience. On the stream, his viewers saw it too. Peter's digital avatar was glitching. Parts of his image would break apart into tiny squares, like a corrupted video file. the chat feed filled with worried messages. "Peter, are you okay? What's happening? Log out." The pulling grew stronger. It felt like a giant vortex was opening inside the game, right in the center of the haunted house, and it was pulling him in. Not just his game character. It felt like it was pulling his mind, his thoughts, his very soul. He felt dizzy and weak. The monsters around him seemed to fade as this new unseen force took over. He tried to pull the VAR glasses off his head, but he couldn't. His real hands wouldn't move. He was paralyzed in his chair, a prisoner in his own room, while his consciousness was being drained away into the machine. His fans watched in horror. The suffocating feeling wasn't just in the game anymore. Some viewers reported feeling a strange pressure in their own rooms, a feeling of breathlessness, as if the air was being sucked out. Peter's image on their screens became more and more distorted. His face would pixelate and stretch, his voice breaking into digital static. "Help me," he managed to say, his words garbled. "It's pulling me in." The terror was no longer just on the screen, it was leaking into the real world, affecting the millions who were watching. People frantically tried to help. Some called the police, reporting a possible kidnapping. His most dedicated fans, who knew his address, rushed to his apartment building. They banged on his door, but there was no answer. Inside, Peter was still in his chair, but he was fading, both in the game and in reality. The line between the two worlds was breaking down. The haunted house was no longer just a setting. It was becoming his prison, a digital cage for his soul. He was losing the fight. The vortex was winning. The end came suddenly. On the stream, Peter's avatar gave one last, silent scream. His digital body shattered into a million glowing particles. The particles swirled and were sucked into the center of the game's haunted house. Then the screen went black. A single message appeared in the same white text from the invitation "Game over." The stream ended. For millions of viewers, the connection was cut. They were left staring at a blank screen, the silence deafening after the chaos. The chat rooms were in a state of panic and confusion. What had they just witnessed? When the police and his fans finally broke down the door to his apartment, they found an eerie scene. The room was empty. The neon lights were off. The multiple monitors were dark. The only thing left was the gaming chair, sitting silently in the middle of the room. On the floor, right where Peter had been sitting, lay the VAR glasses. They were no longer black. They were now clear, like normal glass. And they were cold, colder than they should have been. Peter was gone. He had vanished. There was no sign of a struggle, no trace of him at all. An investigation was launched. The police were baffled. How could a man just disappear from a locked room? They analyzed the VAR glasses, but the technology was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was a dead end. The mysterious sender of the message was never found. The game, the house, the monsters, it all vanished as if it had never existed. Peter Plays, the channel with millions of subscribers, went silent. No new videos were ever uploaded. The king of the gaming world was gone, dethroned by a nightmare he couldn't beat. Sometimes, late at night, gamers say you can still feel him. They say if you play a horror game in the dark, you might feel a sudden chill, a strange sense of being watched. Some even claim to see a flickering, ghostly face in the static of their screen for just a second, a face that looks a lot like Peter. He was never found. He became a ghost story, just as the message had promised. A cautionary tale whispered among gamers about the dangers of a game that becomes too real. Trapped forever inside the haunted house, a permanent ghost in the machine. For more horror stories and games, subscribe, share, and comment with your horror stories. You may see them real.